Are we really complaining about 6 hours of wrestling? Where they do that at?
No, baby, that's for somebody else. We're just gonna keep you right where you at right now.
It doesn't matter what you think.
The Wrestling Realm presents Break It Down with Brian H.
Welcome everyone to episode 7 of Break It Down with Brian H. You know who I am. This show brought to you by the Wrestling Realm. And if you're on iTunes, just to let you know, we have a new home for Break It Down. We are now on Podbean, as well as, of course, our YouTube channel. So those out there, make sure you're subscribed to iTunes, YouTube, Stitcher, Podbean. Make sure you subscribe, tell a friend, and drop some ratings for us. So let's get right into today's show. Shinsuke Nakamura, Roman Reigns. Will these guys be able to win the big one? That is the question going into Friday at the Greatest Royal Rumble. So we start off with Shinsuke Nakamura. So if you didn't notice, I got to give a shout out to my brother Corey over at the Wrestling Marks of Excellence. Corey said that Shinsuke's music had to change. There was no way they was going to keep his music the same, being the fact that people are cheering it. Corey was at WrestleMania and Monday Night Raw and SmackDown, and of course, I would say NXT and Hall of Fame. But at SmackDown, he said people were still cheering for Shinsuke. He said, how are you going to keep him here? You got to cheer his music. Guess what they did? Shinsuke's been walking around saying he doesn't speak English, so they got a Japanese guy singing to the beat of his music, and it was great. While, yes, people might cheer, but it shows the arrogance of Shinsuke Nakamura. It shows that he doesn't speak English, and he's not going to conform. So I like the fact he said, look, and Corey Graves sold it best. He got tired of people singing along with his song, so he changed it up a little bit. So we saw him and Aiden English and Rusev in a 6-man tag against AJ Styles and Anderson and Gallows, also known as the Club. For those who don't know, they used to be the Bullet Club, but you should already know that. So we saw these guys all, and I'm usually not a fan of 6-man tags unless it makes sense. And I think because when I was younger, a 6-man tag match was special. You only saw it on Raw every now and again, but then as we got into, and maybe it's just because we get more wrestling with Raw and Smackdown, we started seeing more 6-man tags. So it was like, this ain't the same, but seeing it tonight made a lot of sense. Well, seeing it on Tuesday made a lot of sense. AJ Styles being reunited with the Club, who just went over to SmackDown doing the Superstar Shake-Up. So, but at the end of the match, it was Shinsuke getting the pin on Luke Gallows. And then, when AJ Styles finally got his hands on him, finally was able to beat him up, that's when Shinsuke hit that low blow, and which he's been constantly doing. And then he also beat up Carl Anderson and gave him the kick to the head. So I'll get more into my predictions and who do I think will win the match later in this show. But I just love what they're doing with these two. I got to give a credit to my buddy Terrence over talking about wrestling. Now, Terrence, I always got to get on him because he'll be the first one quick to say, you guys watch too much WWE. But then when Satch talks about New Japan, Terrence is sitting there getting educated and schooled. But he didn't really like the feud because he felt like that it wasn't really appealing to the American audience, where Satch was saying, no, this is about the wrestling, and go back and watch the match that they had in Japan. Everybody knows they wrestled. And then Terrence said, now we have a reason to watch the feud, and that being the fans who didn't keep up with the product. So, which make sure you get on SoundCloud and make sure you get on iTunes and download Talking About Wrestling. I promise you it's a good, entertaining show. You'll get a lot of information from those gentlemen. So, I'm excited to see where they go with this. I really love AJ Styles and Shinsuke Nakamura going back and forth. These guys are closing the show, as they should. It's for the WWE Championship. So every week they should close the show on SmackDown Live. All right, so let's move on to Monday Night Raw. Roman Reigns, he confronts Brock Lesnar. Didn't get too close, but he let Lesnar know that he's leaving Saudi Arabia with the Universal Championship. I was interested. One of the things I wanted to see, how was Roman going to look? Is he healed? That's going to be the question going into his match. Is Roman Reigns healed enough to be able to beat Brock Lesnar? Because he took a beating at WrestleMania 34. Will he be able to go in to Saudi Arabia at the Greatest Royal Rumble and escape the cage? Doesn't have to pin Brock Lesnar. Can he escape the cage and become Universal Champion? Now, this week, we thought we was getting The Miz and Daniel Bryan live on Miz Television, at Miz TV. We thought that we would finally get the showdown. Perhaps Daniel Bryan would smack him in the face. Well, The Miz came out there and he did his talk. And then guess what? It was time for Daniel Bryan to come out. He invited him out. Daniel Bryan's music hit. No Bryan. His music hit again. No Bryan. You've been watching wrestling long enough. If you haven't, you know that's the ultimate sign that somebody's taking him out backstage. Instead, we got Big Cass. Now, I'm going to leave the jury out on this one. I'm not really feeling... I wasn't a Big Cass fan. I liked him and Enzo in NXT. Was happy when they came up, but then I got bored with them. I want to see what happens. This is make or break for Big Cass. A feud with Daniel Bryan is make or break for him. And what do you mean by that? Can he show that he belongs with the top guy? Can he draw enough heat to make people hate him enough to want to see him get beat up? Because we're going to want to see Daniel Bryan win. But do we want to see Big Cass lose? That is the question. And so, Daniel, it was revealed that he was the guy who attacked Daniel Bryan. It wasn't revealed during Miz TV, but it was revealed later. And Daniel Bryan said he talked to Paige, the new GM of SmackDown Live, and he was granted a match with Big Cass at Backlash. Daniel Bryan hinted that he's going to take care of business and win the Greatest Royal Rumble, but then he's going to take care of Big Cass at Backlash. So only time will tell. All right, we're going to take our first break. Be right back.
What's up, good people? My name is Mikel Ramos, host of your favorite sports podcast, Roaming the Airwaves, Rolling with Ramos, and you're listening to Break It Down with Brian H., brought to you by The Wrestling Wrealm.
That was Mikel Ramos. Make sure you check out her podcast. As I said before, the real Dwayne Allen and I was on there a couple weeks ago, right after WrestleMania, talking Ronda Rousey. If you love sports, which I'm pretty sure most of you do, that is the place you want to check it out. Get a good perspective from her and her co-host Tristan. All right, so let's get into this week's Top Rope.
Going up to the top rope.
It's time for this week's Top Rope segment of the week.
All right, so on this week's Top Rope, I'm putting Naomi. No, it's not because she was twerking. Well, maybe that had help in it. But the reason why Naomi's on the top rope. So last week they told a great story here where Naomi came out to save Jimmy Uso and his brother too, her brother Jay, from getting beat up. I mean, the Bludgeon Brothers, if you've been paying attention, have been just wreaking havoc on SmackDown Live since. So we saw that Naomi came out there last week. She said, please leave him alone. This week, Naomi said to Jimmy, I have a bad feeling. Please don't go out there. Obviously, the Bludgeon Brothers are watching. Jimmy assures her that everything's going to be okay, that he's going to have his twin brother, and things will be fine. Well, during the match, it was business as usual. It was Jimmy Uso versus Rowan. Business as usual. Rowan's just tossing Jimmy around, beating him like a rag doll. Harper is on the outside doing the same thing to Jay. And you're thinking, okay, here we go again. Suddenly, Naomi's music hits. So I'm sitting here and I'm watching. I'm like, wait, why would her music hit? Like, why don't she just go out there? But no, her music hits and she's doing her dancing at the top, and like she's getting ready to make her ring entrance, the glow. Like I said, lights were out. So I was thinking, all right, maybe that's going to give Jimmy an opportunity to get away, or maybe the Usos are just going to leave. But it's like, what, they're faces, so why would they leave? Naomi comes out there, and she stands in the middle of that ramp, or the aisleway, and decides to shake her tail feather. And as she's sitting there dancing, and you see that Harper and Rowan, the Bludgeon Brothers, they may be a couple of guys who, maybe different, but one thing they can appreciate is a beautiful black woman. And they were caught dead-handed, just shocked. And you could see that Luke Harper got him a eyeful. Like, he was like, yeah, okay, I like that. Next thing you know, boom, super kick, 1, 2, 3. Jimmy Uso gets the victory. Now, like I said, I like this because everybody knows they're really husband and wife. Why not put them together? They don't always have to be managing each other. She doesn't have to be at every one of his matches. He don't have to be at every one of hers. But when big accomplishments happen, when Naomi wins the title, when Usos win the titles, they celebrate. It's like, hey, we work with the same company. We have different goals, but we have to support each other. So I like this. That is why that's on this week's Top Rope. Moving on, the Kevin and Sami show, Monday Night Raw. I love this. What you have is a way to keep Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn both relevant. Excuse me, the Sami and Kevin show. Make sure I get that right. And I was listening to the Tag Me In Bro, good podcast. And one of the things that Joe, the host, said was that he could see that this would lead to Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens taking on Jason Jordan and Kurt Angle. And I was like, well, okay, I see where you're going there. Clearly these guys, they found their way on Raw, and with the title not being present, you have to figure out, okay, how are we going to keep the belt? We'll keep these guys relevant because they both, or at least Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn's proven himself to be a main eventer. I've seen better heel tactics out of Sami Zayn than I've ever seen him as a face. The underdog role was cool, but guess what? We got Daniel Bryan back. We don't need that role out of him. So this is going to be great to see where this goes. And those guys are entertaining on the microphone, without a doubt. And I'm a huge fan of talk shows, Piper's Pit, The Ambrose Asylum, Miz TV. What was Jericho's? I forgot the name of Jericho's show, but he had one. Edge had one. So I'm a huge fan of these type of shows. So let's have more, but make sure it's with people that actually make sense. Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, the perfect guys to do that. Let's stay with Monday Night Raw. Dolph Ziggler and Drew McIntyre defeat Titus Worldwide. Now, we saw the win coming, without a doubt. Unfortunately, it's a shame what's going on with Titus Worldwide. I really want to see them get back. I don't know, but because I really like Titus. Love what he stands for. Loves what he does in the community. I always say I felt Apollo Crews was rushed to the main roster too soon. Never really saw him develop in NXT. I understand, like, a guy like Elias wasn't going to stay in NXT too long, but he's had a better career on the main roster. Even though I'm not a fan of this guy, you can't argue Baron Corbin had a better career on the main roster. I mean, he's a former United States champion. And for what you want to call it, a Money in the Bank winner. What has Apollo Crews done? Absolutely nothing. And Dana Brooke, her best features was when her best features, no pun intended. The most relevant she was when she was with Charlotte, which I was so upset. I felt like that never should have been broken up. Could have been like Ric Flair and Arn Anderson. But back to McIntyre and Dolph Ziggler. Afterwards, Dolph Ziggler said, since day one, no one has ever had his back. And right now he has this man right here is dangerous. What? And he's talking about Drew McIntyre. And everybody, you can't help but see Shawn Michaels and Diesel, as I said last week. McIntyre says he feel like the locker room has gone soft. His quote was, "I'm especially dangerous to a locker room that's gone soft." Now, when Drew McIntyre left the WWE, he was strumming an air guitar. He went to hit the Indies, went to TNA, became a champion over there, became the guy. Now he's back in WWE. Well, he came in NXT, won the NXT title, back in WWE, and he looks better than ever before. You would not believe if you didn't know that this was the same guy who was strumming an air guitar. So I want to see how far this is going to go. But right now, the look, McIntyre's got world champion look all over him. Is this the guy that Vince McMahon saw? Obviously, he looks different, but is this the guy that is the chosen one? Not the same gimmick, obviously, but he looks like somebody who you say, yes, I want to put a world title around him. That's why I say the belt has to be back on Raw every week, because I want to see McIntyre competing for that title. Let's take a quick break here.
What's good, everybody? This your boy Drizzy Dre, Mr. One and Only from the Flex Zone, Mondays at 10 p.m. on WBGR. And right now you are listening to Break It Down with my boy Brian H., brought to you by the Wrestling Realm.
That is my boy Dre from the Flex Zone. You know, when he told you where you can check them out at. Make sure you also check them out on YouTube. Same show. I know everybody has their different way they consume podcasts and talk shows. You can check them out on YouTube. If you sit there like me and listen while you do your work, it's a great listen. You have the NFL draft coming up, so the fellas did a preview, Byron and Cravante, and every time they talk NFL draft, I'm not a big NFL draft guy, but when they talk about it, I feel more intelligent. I feel like I'm prepared. Like if I was going to draft, I did my homework. But speaking of draft, or superstar shakeup in this case, two guys that didn't join their friend Curtis Axel and Bo Dallas. I guess we still calling them the Miz Taraj, at least for now. I thought it was very entertaining that they tried to join Seth Rollins, said, let's recreate the Shield. And they tried to join Finn Balor, and wanted to recreate the Bullet Club or the Balor Club. There's got to be something to do with these guys. I'm a huge fan of Curtis Axel, and yes, it's probably partially because of his dad, but also when you watch Axel wrestle a couple years ago, he was entertaining, but he had Paul Heyman. The wrestling was there, obviously, but having a guy like Paul Heyman be an advocate for him showed that he could go places. And not to disrespect the legacy of Brock Lesnar, but it makes you wonder, if Heyman was still around, how far, if Heyman was still around, but Lesnar wasn't, how far would a guy like Axel or a guy like Cesaro would have went? Or maybe even Ryback. Because these were Paul Heyman guys, and that's when it was, after CM Punk had said it, that's when the shirt came out, I'm a Paul Heyman guy. So it just makes you wonder how far they would have went. But nonetheless, if you didn't see Raw, make sure you check that out. Let me know what you think. Tweet me at Brian H. Waters and tweet me at Wrestling Realm. Let me know what you think about Bo Dallas and Curtis Axel. And what do you think will happen with them? Yeah, what do you think will happen? Moving on, Raw's main event I thought was awesome. It was a 10-woman tag team match that featured everybody on Raw, all the women on Raw. But in the end, it was Ronda Rousey coming out and kind of setting up a feud with her and Mickie James, which, if you've been paying attention to the internet, you know that they will be facing each other coming up on the European tours. Now, the thing is, we're not going to see the women at the Greatest Royal Rumble. Triple H made a great point. And like I said, I'm not sure if I said this last week. I may have. Their country is different than the United States, the United Kingdom, and other countries where the wrestlers perform. Therefore, the women, the culture is different. So that's the reason why we won't see the women wrestle there. And like I said, Triple H made the statement. He clarified that. I know a lot of people saying, oh, WWE has this so-called women's revolution. Why aren't the women wrestling? There's your answer. But I did think it was a great for them to give us the women in the main event. And then seeing Ronda Rousey, that goes to show she's there every week. She's the full-time superstar that she said she was going to be, but also like to protect her, not rushing her in the ring. She's a special attraction while she's there. It's a special attraction to see Ronda Rousey perform. Why? Because we saw it in the UFC and we paid for it. So I do think it will get to a point where she'll be performing every week on television, but there's some things that's probably still being worked out. She's probably still doing her training. So I thought that was great. Alexa Bliss and the bullying thing. Want to know what y'all think about that? Alexa Bliss knows how to make you hate her. That's what I think. You look at her, she's somebody where if you were watching leading up to her versus Nia Jax, you're like, whoa, whoa, what's up? Like, yo, you need to chill out. So she has that ability to make you say, I can't stand you. And that's what you want to see from a heel. No, she's not the champion. Pretty sure she'll get her rematch at Backlash. So, do I think she'll win the belt back? No, not yet. But there's a reason that Alexa Bliss has been featured heavily, and it's not because she's a blonde hair, blue-eyed white woman. There's a reason she's been featured heavily for the past 2 years in the women's division. Moving on to SmackDown, we saw the Iconics taking on Asuka and Becky Lynch. Love this match. We getting to see Asuka not always be on the winning side. The Iconics won when Peyton Royce caused Becky Lynch to hit her head on the post, and then she did a roll-up pin, and then as she did the pin, she put her foot on the ropes. Thought it was genius because the Iconics show they will cheat to win, and they will do everything they need to do. I'm interested to see what happens and when they going to interfere with Charlotte and Carmella's match, because there's unfinished business there. But then they also wanted to show, hey, we're ready for Asuka and Becky Lynch. You know, they got some things they want to show right there, showcase. So there's a lot of stories that's being told right here. But like I said, I really love the Iconics. I think they spent a great amount of time on NXT. They brought them up at the right pace. There was no need to rush one of the belts on either one of them. So that's going to be it's going to be a great duo. Like I said, the women's division on both sides is really fun to watch, and I think the superstar shakeup helps keep things a little fresh. But we saw Carmella and Charlotte have a contract signing, the official contract signing for the rematch at Backlash, where Charlotte will attempt to get her SmackDown Live Women's Championship back. How about one thing we know with a contract signing? Somebody's getting beat up, and Charlotte signed her name and smashed Carmella's head into the table. Oh, man. So, obviously, Backlash is coming. It's coming real soon, so I'll save my predictions for that later. But this is to put Big Cass and Carmella in the same wavelength. Well, you know, you really can't, because we've seen what Carmella could do. We saw how great of a heel she is, and we see how egotistical she is after she won the title. Big Cass, if he wants heel lessons, he need to study his ex-girlfriend or girlfriend. But let's go ahead and take another break.
Hey, what's up, everyone? It's your girl, Kelsey Nicole Nelson, host of Listen In with KNN on Fox Sports Radio, 96.9 FM and 1340 AM. And I want to make sure you are listening right here to Break It Down with Brian H., brought to you by The Wrestling Wrealm.
That was Kelsey Nicole Nelson, host of Listen In with KNN. So I told y'all last week she had a surprise on the show, right? If you did not check it out, make sure you go in the archives of iTunes or foxsports1340am.com, where she interviewed the lovely Miss Brandy Rhodes. They talked a little bit about how Brandy got started. Actually was in the news business, and then studied, was model, and which led to her becoming a wrestler, and then how she, was an announcer, and then how she had to balance wrestling and announcing, as well as how she ended up, in things that's going on at Ring of Honor, as well as the TV show Wags. So make sure you check out Kelsey's interview with Brandy Rhodes. I promise you will be entertained. So a couple more things we want to get to before we get to our Tapped Out segment this week. Randy Orton taking on Shelton Benjamin. This is a match that I thought was great. I mean, if you know anything about the history, those two are around the same class. The class that brought us superstars. I don't think we've had a class since. Well, you know what? I'm wrong. The NXT class will be that way. With Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens. Oh, Neville's not there. Wait, Hideo Itami. Oh, man. Well, they still got Finn Balor. But, at one point, that was supposed to be like the next big thing. But when you look at Randy Orton, it was Randy Orton, Shelton Benjamin, Brock Lesnar, John Cena, Batista, all of them around the same class. These were the guys, set to lead into the new generation. Shelton Benjamin's career wasn't nowhere near I ain't gonna say nowhere near, but it wasn't as successful as everyone else's. But he did have a successful WWE career, tag team champion, intercontinental champion. But what I thought was interesting, Benjamin looked like he was getting ready to face Jeff Hardy. And then that's when Randy Orton came out there and got involved. So, but not even getting involved, he just kind of walked out and he was like entitled. Now, Randy Orton's owed a rematch because he lost the United States title at WrestleMania to Jinder Mahal. However, Mahal lost the title to Jeff Hardy. So eventually that's going to clash. But what happens if Jinder Mahal wins the United States Championship back at the Greatest Royal Rumble? Only time will tell. But I definitely advise you to check out this match between Orton and Shelton Benjamin. It's a good match, very entertaining. And then we look at the New Day and The Bar. They had a lot of fun on SmackDown. That's one of the things I like about them too. We're gonna get. Like I said last week, I wasn't really happy about the New Day and the Usos staying on the same show. But I am happy that the Usos, the New Day and the Bar is on the same show, because the wrestling will come, but we're going to be entertained. That's for certain. So that's going to be certainly interesting. So guess what? We're going to talk a little bit of Impact today. So we saw Impact Redemption, their pay-per-view. Not going to talk about the whole card, but just a couple of highlights. Scott Steiner came back, did the Frankensteiner. Heard a lot of people say things about him. I want to know, what do everybody think? Guess what? He's an Impact World Tag Team Champion. Him and Eli Drake won the belts. So when they defeated LAX. So I want to know, what do everybody think about them? Matt Sydal take on Petey Williams. Now, Matt Sydal retained his X Division Championship. Petey Williams is somebody I remember the first time I met him, and I got to see the Canadian Destroyer in person. It was an MCW show back in 2005, I believe. He's still out there doing his thing. But, it's just, I wonder what would have happened if, I always wonder what would have happened if Impact Wrestling, or at the time TNA, would have had somebody who was in love with their company the way Vince loves the WWE, how far could that have went? Because people don't realize, as good as WCW was during the time when it was beating WWE, those people still didn't love the business. There was, Ted Turner's people wasn't all about wrestling. As Eric Bischoff and Tony Schiavone said, you had a TV company running a wrestling show. So I always wondered that. But let's move on to our Tapped Out segment.
Here's our Tapped Out segment of the week.
All right, so this week Tapped Out segment is Austin Aries. Spoiler alert. Austin Aries took on Pentagon Jr. and Phoenix in a triple threat match for the Impact World Championship. Spoiler alert. Just to let you know, so if you want to pause this or fast forward, Austin Aries will go ahead and lose the title to Pentagon Jr., but the next taping, he regained the title. And here I thought, okay, maybe they're going in a different direction here. This match was supposed to be Austin Aries versus Alberto El Patron. Instead, Patron left the company, and now he left the company and he's doing his own thing. So they got a couple other guys from Lucha Underground. So my thing was, all right, I'm interested to see what happens with Austin Aries. Instead, and interested to see what happens with these other guys they're bringing in. Now, I'll be one to say, no, I don't consume the Impact Wrestling product the way I do the WWE product or even the Ring of Honor product. But, I do watch and I tune in. But the reason I'm putting on my Tapped Out was because, this dude won another belt. He lost and then won it right back. I don't know. And I know you got to watch the story, see what happens. But I'm going to see. Right now, looking at the spoilers, I'm not impressed. To me, it's like finding out when Christian won the title and then lost it a couple of days later. And was not happy about that at all. After he won that ladder match. So, let's move on. It's time for Wrestling for the Culture.
It's time for Wrestling for the Culture, where we take a look inside to see what the wrestlers of color have been doing this week.
So, Wrestling for the Culture this week. Ric Flair joined Offset, the rapper, on the Jimmy Fallon show. Now, I'll be the first to admit, not a rap fan. I know that's weird, a black guy not being a rap music fan. I kind of know who people are, and that's basically just from hearing people talk about it or the word on the street. But, as always, Ric Flair's had an influence on a lot of these rappers, and guess what? Because rappers just like wrestling anyway. It's just a gimmick. So, he joined them. I saw the cool clip. He was wearing the robe. Make sure you check it out on thebrianhwaters.com, where you can watch the full clip. And while you're there, make sure you click on the Amazon link when you make your purchases. Help me out. Discussed earlier, Brandy Rose joined Kelsey Nicole Nelson to talk about everything that she's doing in the world of professional wrestling, as well as the world of reality television. Spoiler alert. If you do not think Brandy is for real, she said that the people from WAGs had to work around her wrestling schedule. Not wrestling had to work around her WAG schedule. The Velveteen Dream returned home to DC last week during the NXT house show, where he faced Ricochet, as what Dr. D says was the match of the night. And after that match, Ricochet received an endorsement from none other than the People's Champion, The Rock. Ricochet was seen doing a couple of Rock's moves. Obviously, social media picked up the clip. The Rock says Ricochet is the future champ. It gets no better than that. Keith Lee lost the PWG title. You know, since I've been doing Break It Down with Brian H, he won the title. But yeah, he just lost it. And guess what? The rumors are that he's agreed to a contract with WWE. Stay tuned. We'll find out. Lio Rush gets a bodyguard. Make sure you go to Instagram. You'll find out who he is. I think it's really good. He was talking about being in the world alone and all that other stuff. So now he has a bodyguard. How about him and Dolph Ziggler having bodyguards? Maybe they're bringing those back. Can we bring back managers? I'm with it. Desmond Xavier and Zachary Wentz won the PWG Tag Team Championships. Zuka King wins the Action Pack Heavyweight Championship. Nina Monet became the new RWA Women's Champion. Dead on Arrival became the new ECWA Tag Team Champion. The Gym Nasty Boys win the IWA Mid-South Tag Team titles. Also, congratulations to the great one, The Rock, on the birth of his third baby girl. So, that's all for Wrestling for the Culture this week. Now, it's time for the greatest Royal Rumble predictions. So, we're looking at the card, and this is going to be, people are complaining, this pay-per-view is going to be 6 hours. And my thing is, so who complains about that much wrestling? It's not like it's WrestleMania where it's at night. This is going on at 12 noon. So if you're like me, you'll be at work, and then you can come home and watch it. You can even start from the beginning. You may say, you know what, I'm going to watch a little bit now, and then I'll watch a little bit later. Nonetheless, the people in Saudi Arabia, who this is for, get a great show. And that's what I'm really excited about. It's going to be in a huge stadium. I'm excited to see how it looks, especially since, how do they get the equipment over there, and is it going to be an elaborate Titantron or not? So we're going to find out. But let's get ready to look at this card, and let's make some predictions. So, for the Cruiserweight Championship, it's just been official. I'm recording this on Tuesday and, kind of a little bit later than I usually do. But it is official. Cedric Alexander will defend the Cruiserweight Championship against Kalisto. My prediction, they're going with Cedric for a while. He's got the momentum. He's going to hold on to this belt. Cedric wins. We have The Undertaker taking on Rusev, on Rusev Day, might I add, in a casket match. What did Corey Graves say, I believe? Undertaker's never won a casket match on Rusev Day. But guess what? Neither has Rusev. Really hard for me to see The Undertaker losing here. But I will say this. If Rusev wins, that goes to show the faith they have in him. But for the record, I'm picking Rusev. I'm picking The Undertaker. We have the leaders of the world taking on Cesaro and Sheamus in the finals for the vacant WWE Raw Tag Team Championships. Yes, the belts are vacant, in case you forgot. Braun Strowman and Nicholas won them at WrestleMania, and then Braun Strowman and Nicholas, because of Nicholas' schedule, had to relinquish the titles. The leaders of the world win this, Bray Wyatt and Matt Hardy. I'm almost certain. Why? Because guess what? The bar is on SmackDown. They're not going back to Raw. I would be surprised. That would be a swerve for me if they did, but I think it's time to see what the leaders of worlds. Let me correct myself. The leaders of worlds. Let's see what happens with them. Very intrigued, especially Matt Hardy. I mean, this guy constantly reinvents himself, but I really do want to see him wear the WWE Championship or the Universal Championship, because if he doesn't, he'll be the only one of him, his brother, Edge and Christian, not to be a world champion in the WWE unless you want to count ECW. We also have Triple H taking on John Cena. This is going to be a classic. It's going to be fun. You got two. It's hard to believe, Triple H was kind of the veteran when John Cena was the rookie, but now they're both veterans. But Triple H doesn't look that much older than Cena. But you remember when Triple H said he told Cena, like, dude, you suck. But I think, so it's two ways you can go here. Does John Cena lose? And then afterwards, the story is that maybe this just isn't him anymore. Maybe he's too Hollywood. Or do he get his swag back after getting destroyed by The Undertaker by beating Triple H? I mean, what I do like is no storyline here. Just let the two guys that can tell a story in the ring. Overall, I'm going with John Cena. John Cena comes out victorious. We talked about this earlier. The Bludgeon Brothers taking on the Usos. Tag Team Championship will be on the line. Bludgeon Brothers win this. They're going to hold the belts for a while. They're not sending Naomi out there to twerk and distract those guys because the country will not allow it. Jeff Hardy taking on Jinder Mahal for the United States Championship. Jeff Hardy will retain. It will be nice to see Matt and Jeff both walk away from Saudi Arabia with tag titles. Now, what I want to see is, will he show a little bit of wonderfulness? Will we see a little bit of Brother Nero come out in a celebration? No, I'm not the best at that imitation. Shut up, because I know somebody just said you're not best at imitations at all. But we're going to have a ladder match, a fatal 4-way ladder match for the WWE Intercontinental Championship. Seth Rollins, Finn Balor, Samoa Joe, and The Miz. It would be intriguing if Joe won, but no, he's not going to win. I think, I think Seth Rollins gets that. As much as I kind of want to pick Finn Balor, I think Seth Rollins leaves still with that title. I think he'll hold that title for a while. Moving on. For the WWE Championship, Shinsuke Nakamura versus AJ Styles. Now, I kind of want to pick Shinsuke to win this match. I kind of think now could be the time to pull the trigger on Shinsuke. But the way they tell me, and the history of WWE is that when the go-home show happens, the person to take the last fall, the person to leave on their back usually leaves victorious. And for that reason, I have to go with the phenomenal AJ Styles. And then we have Brock Lesnar defending his Universal Championship against Roman Reigns in a steel cage match. Ladies and gentlemen, this is it. This will be it. This will be the crowning moment for Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns will leave Saudi Arabia as your new Universal Champion. And then, what will probably be the main event? The match will probably be 1 to 2 hours. The 50-man Royal Rumble match. So, I'm curious. 50 guys. I would think that everybody except Roman and Brock, Shinsuke and AJ will be in the match. And maybe even Rusev. Maybe Undertaker and Triple H and Cena. But I would think everybody else will be in the match. I want to know, what do the winner get? Will they get a title shot at SummerSlam, Money in the Bank? Well, obviously not Backlash, but maybe the pay-per-view after that. That's what I want to know. So, my prediction is Daniel Bryan. I've said that since this was announced, since he said he was going to be on there. That is the guy I'm going with. I think Daniel Bryan wins this match and has his happy moment. So, ladies and gentlemen, make sure you check us out. Make sure you download the show on Podbean. Make sure you go to iTunes. Give me a 5-star rating and can you drop a comment? You drop me a comment, I give you a shout out on the show. Make sure you are subscribed to the Wrestling Realm on YouTube. That way you never miss anything. Hit the bell. We just dropped couple weeks ago, we dropped the Give Me the Book segment where we talked about WrestleMania 2000. There's also the Bret Hart segment on there. We did the NWO, paid tribute to the NWO by doing our Welcome Back. But then there's a lot of shows in the archives. We talked about the top Intercontinental Champions. We talked about the top WWE Champions, the worst WWE Champions, controversial figures in professional wrestling. We even talked about bounties in professional wrestling, folks. Yes, so you can find all that content more. There's, I think it's a lot of videos on our YouTube channel. Make sure you check it out. It'll be very soon where you'll see the realness, the real, the remarkable, the impeccable, the real Dwayne Allen standing by my side, because we got a whole lot of shows that we got planned for you. So make sure you tweet me at Brian H. Waters. Tweet the show at Wrestling Realm. So long, everybody.